Work session for May 6, 2019 to order. We're all here. Public forum. Individuals may address the City Council about items on the agenda or not included on the agenda. Speakers are required to state their name and address for the council record and limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Speakers are requested to frame their comments around items that fall within the authority of the City Council. Generally, the City Council will not take official action on the items discussed at this time, but may place the item on file, take the matter under advisement, refer the matter to staff or committee for a future report, or direct the matter to be placed on an upcoming agenda. Does anyone wish to speak?
Yes, I would. Robin Hensel, 807 First Street Southeast.
Would you go to the podium, please, Robin?
No, I prefer not to.
Well, if you'd like to speak, you need to use the podium.
No, I don't need to. You have allowed countless members of the audience to speak from these seats, and I have documentation of that. My voice is loud enough.
If that happened tonight, if you'd like to speak, please go to the podium.
No, I don't want to go to the podium.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Excuse me, I have asked to speak, so I will.
And I've asked you to go to the podium.
To get the most use of taxpayer money and Charter Spectrum customers' money, as I am a customer of theirs, I would like to formally request that all meetings, all city meetings,
Please go to the
be
podium.
held
That's
in this
protocol,
chamber
please.
and filmed.
Okay, we'll go on to bill discussion.
Okay,
Thank you.
let it be known that even though I'm in a great deal of discomfort tonight, I'm going to honor your request. But the Human Rights Commission is going to hear about this as well. And you ought to know better because you know what's going on right now with the Human Rights Commission. Now I'll start my 3 minutes.
You're going, you're 5 seconds into it.
To get the most money from the taxpayer money that's invested, as well as customers of Charter, which I am, I request that all city meetings be held in this larger room to accommodate a larger amount of people, and to get the most bang for the buck out of the $50-some thousand that's been spent on this equipment. At the March 4th meeting this year, you allowed 7 people to speak during the council meeting, overflow speakers for Green Step cities that were in opposition. Speakers are only supposed to speak during the work session. That sets a precedent for free speech. Let that be known as well. Coburn's Inc. is an employee-owned company. Zilka has a ton of ESOP shares that he likely still receives from proceeds from. He has publicly thanked Camp Ripley for the boatload of business it brings to Coburn's every year. I believe, based on Zilka's comments at public meetings, that Ripley likely contracts large food orders from Coburn's all year. In addition to all the soldiers purchasing food, prescriptions, hardware, and now gas from Coburn's pharmacy, Coburn's grocery store, Ace Hardware, and their gas station, all raising revenues for the company and raising employee-owned ESOP share stock money. He has even gone so far as to state at one meeting that the corporate office has commended him for garnering Ripley's business. Zilka is one of 3 people who decides what gets on the agenda: city administrator, council president, and mayor. So bottom line, unless Zilka and Brad Hercock have disclosed their stock ownership, isn't this a conflict of interest almost identical to Kimmon's non-disclosure? Brad Hercock is also employed by Coburn's. He's a pharmacist there, so he too is benefiting from this Camp Ripley's business with his employer. Jeremy Handler's wife is also a full-time employee, profiting in ESOP shares because of Ripley's business. Handler was placed on all 3 important city committees by Zilka after the voters chose to not keep him. Zilka, Hercock, and Handler, up until January 2019, that's Handler only, used their political influence by deciding to allow Ripley's representative to get on the council agenda to solidify Ripley's continued business. Camp Ripley's 30-minute presentation has absolutely nothing to do with items that fall within the authority of the city council or are related to delivery of city services. But it does guarantee a steady revenue from Ripley to Coburn's every year. It's long overdue for this council to adopt a policy similar to Brainerd's of ethics and conflict of interest that encompasses all contracted services like Ben Olson, building inspector, the city attorney, city
Your time is
employees,
up, thank you.
as well as all
Your time
committee
is up.
members.
Did anyone else like to speak? Bill discussion.
I only have one question. What are hippie wipes?
Raves. They're a real thick rave that they use in the street department.
Okay. So that was quite interesting.
I saw that too. I had one other one that said, annual street, I can't read my writing,
The street saver, or,
street saver fee.
that's the maintenance agreement for that, software we have for the pavement maintenance.
Okay.
I was surprised I saw a couple bills for replacement of locks. One was $500 some for the police station, the other one was $400 some odd dollars. Isn't that kind of expensive just to replace a lock, or is it a special lock?
These are mechanical and electronic combination locks.
Okay.
For specific areas that are restricted areas of the counties or protected areas.
Okay.
And then all of the locks and
And the keys, it's the install, the lock, the install, and all the keys.
Yeah.
That, if they need keys.
I think prices are going up.
And didn't the one at the CBB include the door as well, replacing the door as well?
No, that was just a lock and keys for the one at the CBD, yeah.
Consent agenda item discussion. Questions for that? Council informational only items. Live stream work session. John.
Yeah, this was brought up because I believe we had one member missing from the council at the last meeting and wanted to make sure that everybody had input on the whether or not we want to move forward with live streaming the work session.
What are the pros and cons?
Mr. President, I would once again express my thoughts on that. I've been on the council for over 6 years now. I've had nobody request it. Even the time that I was in Covers, where I'd see 20,000 people a week. Nobody ever requested it. I haven't gone out and solicited to campaign and try to get people to do it. But some of the things that we've run into, I don't think are important to the public. We don't vote at our work sessions. I know we do have some discussion, but we have to all justify our votes. I don't see it as anything positive. Most of the people that want to hear it come down here when they want to. We've all seen that. And so I don't see a need for it. It opens up a can of worms where somebody could possibly stand up there and say things that aren't true. We've run into it before where some of us have had bad things said about that. There's no need to get that out to the entire community, especially when it's not true. We've all seen it here.
And our discussions usually, when we do vote, if somebody is against something or for it, we usually discuss it, well, just before we take the vote. So what we're doing at the special meetings is more just bringing everybody up to date what's really going on, making things a little clearer so that when we do take the vote later on, we're a little sounder on what we're doing. The only thing is, it's like Mayor Zilka said, people in the past have liked the part about it's a good way to get their agenda out there, and sometimes it doesn't pertain to the operation of the city. And we've never had a time where we could dispute what they're saying. You just have to sit here, take it, and then the general public, they see this person accusing and saying things, and you can't say anything back, so they naturally assume what they're saying is the truth. I don't like that part. If it was done in a civil way, And honestly, I think it wouldn't be a bad thing, but to this point, I haven't seen that pass. So that's where I stand on it.
What about consideration of not recording the public comment? But then we avoid an opportunity to grandstand on issues, start the recording, after the public comment section is over and we get into business. I know for us, we're not, generally in the work session, we're not getting into deep discussions. I know in other communities they do, and there's a perception out there that there's a lot of details on stuff hammered out in a work session, where that's where the real business gets done and then you move on to the meeting. And so I think I'm gonna listen to my colleagues that were around when they were recorded before, and if it became a spectacle, I think we can look to find a way to avoid that. But then at the same time, I mean, we have the equipment and this nice new screen here.
And I have spoken to some people, and they think it's a good idea. They're younger people that we really want to get interested in city government. If we use taxpayer dollars, we should at least justify the cost with the utilizing what we spend the money on to its fullest capability. As far as grandstanding or that type of stuff, just look at the way things are going everywhere nowadays. There's all kinds of stuff going on. We shouldn't be judge, jury, and prosecutor and say, we don't want to hear what you have to say, so let's not record it. Some of that stuff that they bring up is stuff that we put on the agenda. Let the people know that this was brought up, and the mayor and the president and the administrator are looking at it and putting it on the agenda for a vote. So the citizens know what we are voting on and why we're voting a certain way. I just think it's a good idea. As problems arise, I wasn't on the council when before. I'm new to this, so I just think we, as city servants, we should utilize what we spend money on to the utmost capable that we can.
Mr. President, how many other council people have had people come up to you and say, I would really like to have you air the work session or public comment, other than people that want to be heard?
Zero.
I've never heard it.
Our, on the agenda, under public forum, it says individuals may address the city council. It doesn't say individuals may address the city council and everybody else who's watching this. I think these comments are for the city council specifically to think about whether or not it's something we want to take action on in the future. And also, like Mayor Zilka said, when that Green Cities thing was on the resolution was on the agenda, we had people get up and just state outright lies. Things that were just flat out not true. They were not factual, they were incorrect. And for that type of information to be recorded, and especially if it's live, we don't really say, well, wait, stop, that's not true. We allow them to say what they want to say, and so there's a potential for serious misinformation to get out there, and I don't think we want to do that. If we want to record or broadcast the work session where we're actually working and talking about, getting caught up to date on what exactly is going to happen here, during the council meeting, maybe the general public would have, get more information than they do. We discuss the bills, what exactly does this mean? What exactly does that mean? In the council meeting, we don't discuss the bills. I think the question here is, do we air the public forum or not, because the work session itself, I don't have a problem with airing that. But the public forum and has been at times really offensive, and I just don't think that there's a need to air that.
Mr. President, since I've been on the council too, and I've asked this question several times, we have that line in there that says, speakers are requested to frame their comments around items that fall within the authority of the city council. And there's many times when the speakers get up here and what they're talking about has nothing to do with what the city council can react on or do at all.
Like Camp Ripley presentation.
So, that would be I agree with Leif, and, we started after the bill discussion, so it's, if they want to do the open and hear what we're doing or whatever, but as far as the public forum, I think that's just providing an opportunity for people to come up and present a position and on whatever that we can't actually do anything about. So I'm against that.
Mr. President, getting back on the Green Step City, there was part of that. They went right from the public forum into our own session, and they were televised when they were up there in that. So
We decided to continue that part afterwards for the benefit of time.
But it was still, was it not? It was still recorded and aired, wasn't it? When they were up there.
I don't know, quite possibly, then that was a mistake on my part.
Council President, can I just
Yes.
offer, there was a recent League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust sponsored event in April, and one of the topics was actually on council meetings like this, and it was brought up that in other communities, the work session and the public forum components are have issues similar to ours. And certainly, in the interest of time for the meetings, like the situation that happened in March with all the members of the public that were speaking on the Green Steps cities, or speaking on issues not even related to Green Step cities, they made a suggestion, and they said that other communities do this as well, to limit the public forum to a total amount of time limit. I think that was I've certainly seen times where our public forum has gotten long. We certainly didn't anticipate that night to be as lengthy. We maybe would have scheduled the meeting to start a little earlier or allotted more time for it, and we did allow for more time for it that night. But they've said to limit it to as little as 15 total minutes. But also to recommend a sign-in sheet so that there's a hierarchy of who gets to speak and when. Because on a night where you do have only 15 total minutes to speak and you have more than potentially 5 speakers, you could run into that issue. I think that for staff purposes and what we request to be discussed during the council information items, and the time limits that we put on those, we're giving an estimate, but we have times where we have items that we want to get more in depth on, and have not as formal of a conversation about, so that we can share more information and get more input that doesn't have to go through the formal process and dragging out the entire council. So it's just something I wanted to share, not saying that it's a request of ours, but it's an idea that was brought up. We certainly have our experiences around the times that we have in our work session, and how do we manage it.
Well, a sign-up sheet too, we could put a preference on our residents as opposed to people that live outside the community.
Yeah, they were adamant that we wouldn't be able to limit anybody to specifically a voter or a resident of the city.
But we can limit our time.
But we could, if that was
But we can't say they get to go first, and if there's...
how we set the policy for ordering that is still, that's to the discretion of the council.
I would have zero interest in live streaming the work session. People can come if they want to. And we're way over our 5 minutes, so, and if it's something different instead of the
Well,
same
no,
thing again.
all I just say is I'd like to see it on the agenda so we can vote on it at least.
Interim engineering service.